All right, everybody, welcome to the Donnaha station. We just recorded an hour and 8 minutes worth of audio and video, we thought, only to find out that we did not. So This is take two and hopefully better. But anyway, welcome to the show, the podcast, whatever you want to call it. To give you a little bit of an idea of what this is going to be a podcast related to and geared towards history and culture from our perspective and the sharing of people that matter to us. Does this make any sense?
Yeah, that's your own point.
Start.
Okay.
I can't believe we were flowing at the end.
Oh, I know. We just got to get going.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Donnaha Station. So this is going to be a podcast that's mostly geared towards the sharing of stories from both us and people that matter in our lives, specifically related to the area that we call home. So to give you a little bit of a background on that, every person is shaped by the history and the culture and the family that they grew up in. So these things play a factor in who we become, and they form the lens through which we see the world. So the small daily actions of ordinary people in your life are kind of like stones tossed into a pond. Those ripples can go on to impact generations, and this podcast is specifically geared towards exploring those ripples, that history, and the culture of the place that we call home. And we just spent an hour and 8 minutes talking, thinking that we recorded this whole thing, only to find out that we did not. So this is take two. But to get us kicked off here, my name is Jonathan Allen, and you are?
Elijah Cox.
And we're going to be hosting this here deal every episode. What you got to say about it? I don't remember anything we said the first time.
I know. I guess that means it was meant to be a second time. But, I think, the reason we want to do this is because, for me at least, is, we're at a point in life where I think it would be great for people to know some of the things I know and just hear some of the stories I've heard that have helped me through life, whether it's, advice or how I should approach a situation and get through a situation, or if it's just literally hearing the story for the simple fact that it makes me laugh so hard I cry and I just feel fantastic. But I think both of us, we just know so many people and have heard so many good stories, and that, the way the world is going now, people need a little bit of good in their life, and if it's just an hour or so podcast to people listening to something good or something interesting, depending on who's talking or who we have on, I think if we have the ability to do that and to bring that to people, and people there may be people out there that just hate the sound of our southern accent. I don't really care. I think God talks like us, but that's just me.
God talks like us. That ought to be a T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Louis Grizzard said that. He was a Southern writer from Georgia, I think. He's passed away a long time ago, but he was really funny. Very, very pro-Southern and being proud to be from the South. But anyway, I share that sentiment, but I also, I love everybody and want everybody to, at least get a chance to hear some of the stuff that has made me die laughing or, inspired me or stuff like that. And I think we have the power to do that, and we have the ability at least to do that. And to, it's like with anything, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, I think this is kind of our duty in a way, but.
We've been friends for a really long time, most of our lives, which we can get into here in a minute. But I think where we're currently at, we both agreed that we've had significant events and people that have impacted who we have become as adults. And one of the biggest parts of the culture we grew up in was storytelling and hearing from people. That was a way you passed on wisdom. It's a way you passed on joy. It was a way you shared humor at the end of a hard day. It's the lessons learned from the good times and the bad times and the small things that your great-granddaddy might have done that he didn't think mattered, but your dad's still telling you those stories. And we felt like it was appropriate at this point to share things that impacted us, that I would argue shaped who we are today, and give other people a chance to see what those things are, to hear those stories, to get the same value out of them that I think we did, because they did shape who we are. They mattered enough that the culture, the history, and the people around us helped us be who we are today. And it's not a culture that everybody's subjected to, but it's also sort of a dying one, I would argue. Just the small town, the joy of family life, just the significance of the people that you grew up around, and how you lean on each other. And it's not something that everybody experiences anymore in a world that's becoming smaller, but in a lot of ways more distant. And so this is our way of taking what impacted who we are and sharing a little bit of that, a little piece of that with the world. So I think maybe we should just sort of reintroduce for the second time now who we are and how that plays into all this. You want to go first?
Sure. Like I said, my name's Elijah Cox. I'm from Stokes County, North Carolina. It's a big question, even though I've already done it once.
There's only pieces of it you really have to say. I mean, what you feel like is significant there.
Yeah. I'm 28, about to be 29 in a few days. Yay. I am a police officer at a bigger city close by. Have been for about 8 years, and I'm on a traffic division, or on our traffic division. So I ride around a motorcycle sometimes and write tickets, and also am a traffic crash reconstructionist and been to all this training that has a bunch of math that I never thought I'd be able to do. I'm married, happily have been married for over a year, and that's probably the biggest thing in my life right now, and I guess the most happy, I would say, or joyful thing in my life right now. And
significant
thank you, that's the word. But yeah, I have a wonderful, beautiful wife, and I love her, and we're doing good. And I've always gone to church. That's another thing that's important about me, is my faith, and getting, I wouldn't say being a better Christian, but just being having a better relationship with God, and that's important to me. And also being a little more selfless as I move forward in life and doing more for others. I feel like you get more out of life when you sow more into others. You're going to reap more joy, I think, and that's something that I did not do when I was younger. I was not always a nice kid. I think you've said it already. I've had a chip on my shoulder at times in life. I've been mean to people, because I was just in a bad mood, and it's something I can't take back. And I hate looking back and thinking about that. But there's times in life I'm proud of, and that, times where I reined that in, and I'm glad that I changed that about myself, and glad that I'm more kind to people and nice, and but that's in a nutshell. I'm a bigger dude. I guess right now I'm about 270, trying to get down to 250 in a healthy way, and I guess I look big to people and maybe a little scary because I don't talk a whole lot if I don't know you. But if I know you, or at least get to know you a little bit, I'll do anything for you. I mean, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I love to hunt, do some fishing, love the outdoors. I love where I live, proud to be from this country, from this area, from the South, and big proponent of this area, and progress is to me is good in certain ways and bad in others, and it depends on whose definition of progress we're talking about, and that's just me. I mean, I think over everything, my faith is the most important, and second, comes my family and my wife, and third is humor. I think that's the way you get through the hard times, and I think that's the way, they say you either laugh or cry during certain situations, and I think I've learned or mastered the art of laughing when I probably shouldn't, and that's pretty much me, man.
Yeah, but I would say, okay, so you said you're a cop and you're on what are you called? Motors division, traffic division.
Well, yeah, we have like 3 names for some reason.
Okay,
we're the motor unit, traffic enforcement unit.
Part of what we're going to be doing with this podcast is we're going through the stories and the culture and the history of the place that we call home. I can hear my daughter screaming somewhere upstairs right now, but. Would you argue that the point of this podcast, part of why this is important to us, is because you've actually had the experience of going through difficult situations, and you've learned the value of the humor and the sharing of stories?
Oh yeah, I mean,
is that something that gets you through difficult times? Plays a significant role in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, there's times where I've told people, they're never going to see their dad, their mother, their brother, their sister, their whoever ever again, and it's hard and it sucks, and I don't like doing it, and I can't wait till I don't have to do it anymore. But I have to. It's not about me at that point, but I do have to get in my car and go home at the end of the night, or sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning after I've delivered that news and heard the crying and the screaming and all that. I have to get in my car and go home and continue with my life, and I can't cry for everybody. And while I hate it for them, and it's the last thing I want to do, I think it's important to realize all the good in life, and to be positive, and to share with others if you can. If you have that ability to bring some light into the darkness of someone's life, even if the story don't mean that much to them, or even if it doesn't teach them a life lesson, just the fact that they can chuckle or just going down the road listening to something positive and encouraging, or something slightly spectacular, or just some, maybe in their opinion, some dumb rednecks being goofy. Regardless, I think it's a very positive thing, and I'm glad we're doing it, and I think we're supposed to do it.
Okay.
Well, tell me about you.
All right, so my name is Jonathan Allen. By day, I'm in construction. I'm a builder, and that's something that my family has done for a really long time. Actually, my great-granddad was a builder. My granddad was a builder. Almost all my great-uncles were builders. My dad is, and then so I'm another generation of builders. But on top of that, I'm a maker. That's something that's really important to me. I make knives. I'm a forged and fire champion. By nature, I come from a family that's always been very creative. That's a part of who we are. That's something that I think plays a role in maybe our legacy, something that we leave behind. I'm married as well, and I have 3 kids, and I'm going to have only 3 kids. We are done having kids. I have 3 beautiful kids. I've got one. My son will turn 4 in February. My daughter is 1, and we've got a 4-month-old who was an uh-oh, and he'll be the last uh-oh. But, yeah, that's a little bit about my background. At this point in my life, just as marriage is the most significant factor for you in your current place, being a dad helped me to realize, as I pass things on to my kids, as I'm teaching them lessons, you start to realize the significance of not only the family you have and how you lean on them, which is not something everybody has the option to experience, but also the lessons you've learned from when other people share what they've gone through. And those are the things that carry through as you start to think about legacy and impact and the people that your kids are going to become. you start to realize the significance of the lessons that you've been taught, of the things that people have shared with you, and how you can lean on those moments in the hard times and remember what the people who came before you did and the small actions they took and the day-to-day choices they made, how that played a role in who they become, which helps me as a dad to focus on where I'm going and how I want to raise my kids, which ties back to part of why we're doing this, why there's significance in sharing these stories, why we're going to bring people in here that have lived more life than we are so that you can hear their funny stories. You can hear the things that they've gone through and experienced and what they've gleaned from those over the years. I think there's a lot of value in the way your sister put it a couple weeks ago when we first started kicking this thing off, and the sharing of oral history and how that can carry on like those ripples in a pond, and the impact it can have on not just you and your family, but other people who can listen to that, what you've shared, and they can pick something up, and you don't know how far that's going to go or how far it'll carry.
Yeah.
And I would argue that that's the biggest point of this podcast, that we can share joy, that we can share lessons, we can just give people a little window into the place that we call home and the people that help shape who we are.
Yeah.
And on the subject of who we are, I think that's something else we should get into, is how long we've been hanging out, how that all got started, and how we wound up here today.
Yeah. So we have two different versions of the first time we met. Mine is a lot better than yours, in my opinion, because as we'll get into, maybe it wasn't as bad as. I still feel like a butthole for doing it, but I'll let you tell the version, your version of events first.
Okay. So we've been friends for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, right, probably right at it.
Yeah, that's a long time. Wow. So, way back when we were still children's, we both actually met at a church camp that most of the local churches in our area sent their kids to so that the parents could get them out of their hair for a few days. No, on a serious note, we both had the opportunity to be a part of something that I think is a dying tradition, which is to send your kids to a place where they can get out of the environment they were in, experience nature, and learn from people who genuinely want to pour into them. So we were fortunate enough to be able to spend a week at a church camp, and the way I remember it was, for whatever reason, there was no adult in the room at the time, which was probably problem number one, but anyway, regardless, it was a cabin full of young boys, which is the very first piece of a recipe for disaster or trouble. And there was a kid who was just ridiculous, and he shall remain unnamed because I don't even know where he is to this day. But
I know where he is.
Okay,
he came with me to that week.
Oh, the truth comes out.
No, yeah, he was a friend. He's a good guy. He is a good guy, but he just came from just a different background than me and you. Didn't go to church with me. He was just a buddy, and he did come with me that week.
So this kid, he was kind of a troublemaker, if I'm being honest. I remember that week. He just kept kind of stirring the pot and pushing things a little bit, and he was acting out. And my version of the story is I remember getting down off my bunk to confront this kid because I was just tired of his mouth. And apparently we had a misinterpretation of the situation. And instead of me confronting the other kid, I got slammed up against a wall by yours truly, which is where you can pick up on your side of that story. We did not start out as friends.
I don't even remember that, and that's the truth. And like we've talked about, I've played football many years through Little League, middle school, and high school, and hit my head a lot. So I genuinely do not remember that, but I don't deny it because I'm sure it happened, and you have a much better recollection of that event than me. But what I thought it was you. I can only speculate. We were in the cabin, and there's always adults like close by, like you could yell and one would come running. But yeah, we were unattended at that moment in time, and I thought it was you, and apparently, I don't remember what I said, but I probably told you to stop cussing or something, or I don't know. And it wasn't ever you. It was the friend that I brought. So that was the first time we actually met. But my recollection, what I actually remember, is from the same week of camp, and we were both on the top bunk, but like 3 bunks apart. And how everybody, how every kid is at church camp, which it is a Christian church camp, Providence, North Carolina, near Virginia, I guess, the border. But, you know, every kid brings a flashlight. Some bring 2 or 3, just like flashlight crazy.
Yeah, it's like the first thing they send the parents, like a week before your week of camp. It's like this long letter you get, and it's like, bring a flashlight. And you never actually know why, because you never use them.
No.
But I guess if it's in case the power goes out or something. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so everyone's like playing flashlight tag or whatever. I don't even know if I brought one. I don't remember. But I'm just trying to sound like I wasn't one of them, but I probably was. But anyway, I remember looking over, and for some reason, every kid that was up in there, I don't know why the adults were letting it go. I don't know if they were passed out, just adult had a long day, or if they were even in there. But everyone, they may just been letting us be crazy. I don't know. But all the flashlights had gone to one kid, and they were all steady right on his face. And it was you. And your eyes were wide, and you were mad, and all you were like is, it's just a flashlight. It don't bother me. And I was like, that kid's weird. That's literally what I thought. I was like, yeah. And that's the thing, and that's my first impression of you. But you know, as we'll discuss later, it kind of, or may discuss later, is kind of shows us our character, and you know, in different ways, we weren't a sheep. You know, I wasn't going to stand by and just let someone cuss, even though I was wrong in who I was confronting.
Good intentions.
Good, yeah. I had the intention to stop, you know, the bad thing that was happening.
Yeah.
And you had the same intent, like saying, all right. And let's just be honest. You're probably, as far as maturity goes, you were probably 2 or 3 years ahead of the rest of us. I don't know why. At least,
I don't know about that.
In my perspective, I've always thought you were, especially at that point in time, were much further ahead than a lot of kids, and you just were like, I don't care about a flashlight. To you, it was more of a tool, not a toy. So that was our first time we met, and we didn't become friends at that point.
Yeah, it didn't really set things up too well to be buddies.
Yeah, at that point, because you thought I was a bully, and I thought you were weird. And at the time, I probably was a little bit of a bigger kid, and probably did, you know, like I've said, I'm not proud of. You know, not nice to everybody, and kind of wanted to be the tough guy. That's always, you know, was my mentality for a long time. And but when we actually became friends, I have 3 older sisters, and my parents, we all went to Rural Hall, which is another small town, you know, 10 minutes from here, where I actually live closer to there now than I did then. But there was a small church there that my parents went to, that my dad's parents went to, and there was about 3 kids, including me, in the youth group when I was there. And so my sister started going to First Christian, which is where your family was at. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom talking about, you know, when we were, my parents were pretty much like, we're sacrificing the friends that we have at Rural Hall to go to First Christian for our sake, because they had 25, 30 kids in the youth group, a lot of good kids, and they want us to make friends with y'all. So, and specifically, I remember being in the car with my mom. I don't know if we were on the way to Wednesday night service, but I remember being like, you know, because change is weird. I don't like change. I'm still like that a little bit. But I remember my mom saying, there's a boy named Jonathan Allen. He's your age, and you'd be real good friends with him, because he's got 4-wheelers, and he's got a farm. He lives out there in the country, and y'all can do whatever you want. And I was like, nah, I don't know this kid. And at the time, I didn't know your name at camp, so I didn't know that was you.
You didn't realize it was the same person.
So, a few weeks later, I'm surrounded by people that I really like being around. And me and you clicked because we had a lot of the same hobbies. We both love music and just got along,
Yeah, and because I would argue now as adults, looking back, I would say we were on two different sides of the same moral decision when it came to confronting something we knew wasn't right. And integrity has played a pretty significant role in not only our friendship, but who we are today. And I would argue that is primarily due to our culture, the history of the people around us, and the families we come from. Mm-hmm. And so those key factors that were similar, combined with our own personal choices, both good and bad, shaped us to stay friends for 2 decades. And even when we don't always like the same music or the same food or this or that, it doesn't matter. It seemed to always have a stronger foundation than a lot of other friendships that would come and go over the years. And I truly believe that comes down to the people that influenced us and our willingness to listen and regard those who came before us that played a significant role in our lives and what they had to say, who they were, the way they represented themselves. And ironically, I even told my wife this a couple weeks ago, your ability and decision to stand your ground when every other kid in that cabin went along with the stupidity is one of the reasons I respected you enough to want to become friends, even though things started out a little rocky. It was because I grew up in a family that did not follow the crowd, which I think is such a common trend these days. And so you had this one person that, even though they misunderstood and they might have not treated you the way you wanted to be treated, it led to a situation where you could say that person didn't cave to the pressure around them. That person had a foundation in place. And I think that played a role in me and you staying friends through a lot of good times, a lot of bad times, and a lot of dumb times.
Oh, yeah.
And that is really the foundation of who we are, and that's going to be what carries this as we interview other people, as we get into topics that some of these topics may be hard. Mm-hmm. Some of them are going to be really funny. Some of them are stories that are going to be hard to believe, but a lot of the topics are going to be things that I believe you can learn a lot of lessons from, but they may not be the easiest subjects to always hear people talk about because it's about real life. Right. And I think it takes two people who respect each other and have a background that's rooted in integrity to host something that can cover such a large swath as the topics we're going to cover from so many different angles.
Yeah, and I think, it's important for people to know that about us is, we're good friends because we've endured and been there for each other when it was not convenient. When we both had other things to do, we dropped what we were doing, and whether it was physically or emotionally, we were there for each other. And we may go into those stories at some point in time, but I think a lot of people in life don't have that friend. A lot of people in life don't have the families that we have and don't have just the experiences, whether it's they've actually experienced it themselves or heard it through, a dad, mom, grandpa, or family friend or whoever, that I think the life lesson or the humor or the how to get through this, we can give that to somebody who may not have that blessing in their life. And, we've been blessed beyond measure. We haven't had it easy. We're both hard workers and have worked for what we've got, and we've earned a lot, and also been blessed with a lot, and have had help at times. And I think if we can help somebody just by being funny or just by telling them a good story, which is a lost art, and something people have gotten away from because of technology and other stuff. And if we can do that for people, just a few people, maybe one person, if they listen to this and it changes their day, and then hopefully it'll be a lot more than one person, I hope. But I think between me and you alone, we have a lot of good stories. We have a lot of what not to do moments, and but also, give that to somebody who may not have that friend that was there for them when they needed it, and not saying we can be there for everybody all the time, but we both in our maturity and putting the tough guy thing down and picking up the still the defender of our family and what's ours, and don't touch it and don't mess with it and don't tell me how to do what I want to do. While we still have that, we will still give you the shirt off our backs as long as you treat us with the same respect that we want to treat you with. And I think that mentality is helpful. And and while sometimes we'll, like you said, we're going to talk about deep stuff at times, maybe not as much, but there'll be probably mostly humor and funny stuff, because that's what I think gets you through the hard times and gets you through tough spots in life. But I think that's one thing that overall is what I'd like to focus on. And yeah, I mean that there's never been a hesitation on our friendship, just because I can go back. Although I've had a lot of concussions from football, I can go back and I can give you 5, 10 examples of why Jonathan Allen is my friend, and hopefully vice versa with you. And that lays a foundation for why people can listen to us and know, okay, these guys have been through some stuff, and they have a genuine interest in helping others and being there for others, whether it's just a good story. And that's the other side. I think that's such an important thing that we're losing. We're losing storytellers, and we're losing people that have witnessed amazing things. And they, you go to a diner in the morning, and you just find an old guy or veteran sitting by himself. You go sit down with him and just start talking to him, and you're going to learn something amazing because he's been through it.
Yeah, I feel like in today's world, we're so connected, and yet we've lost connection completely with what actually matters, which is other people. So, yeah, I mean, there will be moments where there's some serious topics, but I think really and truly what we want to do is we want to bring not just our lives, but people who had deeper wisdom that affected us. It's a Southern tradition to share stories that make you laugh and then tie something deeper to it. And when you bring these people that we revere, that we respect, that played a role in who we are today to the table and let them share that, it's going to leave an impact on the people who listen to this. It's going to leave them with an impression on their lives that I think will carry through. And my hope is in a world where we're all so connected and yet we're not really deeply connecting with the people around us because we're so plugged into technology. I don't want this to just be another video someone watches. I want them to take what they hear here, and I want it to impact their life in a way that they carry it through and they share it with somebody. So we're going to bring people in who can talk about their lives, can share stories about hunts they've been on, about encounters that they've had, about the things that their granddad taught them, and funny experiences, embarrassing things that we can all laugh about, but the wisdom that's involved in that. And sometimes it's just humor. Sometimes it's just funny. Sometimes you just need to hear a good story. But it's a little glimpse into a place that we both grew up and the people that are immersed in that culture. And I personally feel like it's special. It's not quite like everything else around where other people are. It's unique. It's something that if we bring it to the table and share with the people who listen to this, they're going to get a value and a joy and a benefit to their life that they're not going to find just anywhere. I think you would agree with that.
Oh yeah, well, and just this, it's and I haven't been all over the South. I've been in a lot of different places, but I haven't been everywhere. I've been up north. I've been Indiana through Ohio. No offense to people from Ohio, but I don't plan on ever stopping there for long. And it may be great. There may be, I don't know. I'm not getting into that.
There's some good deer in Ohio. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh, that. Yeah. Now that's a different story. There's some out in the Midwest. There's some monster deer. But there's differences in Stokes County that make us the way we are, and that's one thing. And two, I've noticed that people up north are, we think they're rude. I don't know that necessarily they're rude. They just come out and say it to your face. My brother-in-law said it one time.
I might be a Yankee deep down. I don't know.
Maybe. But my brother-in-law said it best one time. He said people up north just say it to your face. People down here, they just say it behind your back.
Ouch.
And I think there's a little bit I think there's a little bit of truth to it. I don't like admitting that.
That's a hard thing for a Southern man to swallow right there.
But that's not for every Southern person. That's not for me and you. Me and you will tell people, I wouldn't do that, or I don't agree with that, or whatever. We'll come out and we'll tell people. But at the same time, I've witnessed that firsthand, and I think it's probably true, as much as I don't want to admit it. But I think it's important for people to know who we are and the area we're in and why certain things are the way they are. Me and you are we go against the grain in a lot of ways, and we're not sheep. We don't, at times, we don't necessarily care if we're leading anybody, but we're not going to follow idiots. And I'm one of those people personally who I'm anti-fad. FAD, because my dad's name's Thad. I love my dad. Anyway, fad.
Do we need subtitles, do you think?
Maybe. Probably.
People don't understand our accent.
Yeah, people from not around here. But anyway, I don't like when everyone's flipping out about stuff. I think it started when my mom bought me these shorts in middle school, like cargo shorts, but they come up about, if they were any higher, your giblets would be hanging out from one side or the other. I don't know how, but there were boys wearing them.
What does this have to do with our podcast? I'm just curious. You might have lost me. I got up to check my barbecue I was smoking.
Yeah, well, I can see. I'm ADHD, undiagnosed probably, and concussions. But just talking about the way we are and kind of how giving people a good example of who I am at least, and not going against the. Not going with the grain, going against the grain on a less deep side of things. But these guys were wearing these short shorts almost, and Sperry's were really popular.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I even had a few buddies that wore them, and I didn't hold it against them, but I was not going to put those on my feet, and I was not going to wear no shorty shorts. And so that, and then the Crocs. I have a pair of Crocs, and I love them. And they're super convenient, but when they first, I don't know if they first manufactured or whatever, everyone flipped out. Everyone got a pair. Everybody was talking about them all the time.
That's like the little wheelie shoes for a while.
Yeah, Heelys.
I'll admit, I did finally get a pair because they looked really fun.
Heelys. I wanted a pair, but my big rear end would wind up on the ground. I knew I would have broke something. I broke my ankle on rollerblades once, and that kind of scared me away from any type of boarding or wheels on my feet.
So my question is, do you actually own Crocs now?
Yes, I do. They're camouflage though.
That makes it okay?
Well, yeah. They have American flag ones, but I just felt I don't like wearing American flag stuff. I think it's disrespectful.
I'm kind of with you on that.
I don't hold it against people, but I ain't gonna do it. I don't know. That's my perspective. But I do have a pair of Crocs. I wear them to take my wife's tiny dog out.
So you wear the Crocs?
Because if you
not with socks?
No, no. I have before, and it just felt weird.
Felt wrong.
Yeah, not like physically didn't feel weird, but just not emotionally. It just felt wrong. Like I was not committing a crime so much, but it just felt like I don't know. It's hard to say, but I just didn't like it, and so I never did that again. But the thing is, if you step in dog poop in Crocs, you can leave them outside, let it dry, and knock it off in a couple of days. And my boots, they get in the tread and never come out, and I'm walking around smelling dog poop and not knowing where it's coming from for 2 or 3 days.
So you come to learn the value of Crocs.
Oh
is
yeah,
what I'm hearing.
But I had to let it die down. I don't like going with the grain, but that my overall point is that. It's not just about clothing. That's the funny side of it. The deeper side is, I'm going to stand for what's right in this world, or what I think is right, even if that means I'm standing alone.
Even if you're the only one not wearing socks with your Crocs.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's why we're such good friends. Is because you don't. I mean, me and you don't bow down to anybody, or we don't follow just anybody, you know. But we also cherish those who've come before us, and the stories they have and the stuff they've lived through. And while we're bringing this to people, you know, is because we do cherish those who have been through it, and those who, you know, those who have the funny stories, and those who have experienced life and loss. You know.
Well, I think we're no nonsense people, meaning maybe being immersed in an environment where we paid more attention to those that came before us and the older people around us. Maybe by being immersed in that more than maybe a lot of other kids would have been, we were a little desensitized to whatever may be a current trend or the bandwagon that everybody's hopping on, which gives you a unique perspective, and one that allows you to maybe circumvent some of the stupidity of the people around you, and also cling to the people that came before you and start to see the value of what they've got to offer in a way that a lot of other people probably just disregarded as young people, and learn to cherish those stories and maybe a relationship over substance, I would say, and a lot of what you're defining as fads.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think you just get to a certain age. I think what does it is when you get to a certain age and you get to a certain point in life, at least with me and you, especially with you, you get to a point where your time is valuable. Your time is less and less, and I can only imagine when I have kids. Like, I used to do whatever I want whenever I wanted to.
It's chaos.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay for this podcast when I go upstairs.
But that's the thing. Like, we get to a point where we have to determine and we have to prioritize what's important in life. And one thing is worrying about stuff that don't matter. And you know, like, I love going to work out at the Y, but sometimes, and I'm not making excuses for not working out or being in shape. Lord knows that I need to get in the gym or at least go run outside more often. But there's times I have to put that down and say, I need to be at home right now for whatever reason, and not doing that. There's times when I'd rather have been hunting this season. I only shot one deer, and it was a puny one at that. Ended up being puny. But there are times you have to put stuff down and prioritize stuff in life, and that the way that relates to this is you have to prioritize what means something to what is important and means something to you in life. And that a big thing for me is learning, whether it's a funny story that I want to pass on to my kids one day, the value of a good story, the value of not being on your phone, or the advice that I've been given, is I want that to be a priority in my life, and that I can be someone who's learned to gather and store wisdom in certain ways, and to pass that on, to know when someone needs to hear a good story, or when someone needs to be uplifted, or when someone needs to be set straight, but in the right way. And you know, and I think me and you both have that same mentality where we want to help, but also, you know, we're not going to try to push people the wrong way just to be mean. You know, and I think when you have that ability, you should use it. If you have the ability to tell someone what's right and wrong, or at least how to get by a little better in life, I think you should. And I think, you know, we're at a point where we can do that. And if no one cares to, you know, hear any advice, and maybe there's not that much advice at times, you know, we're at least passing along some positivity and something funny. And that's, you know, that's the main thing, is I want to bring something to people, you know, that they're going to laugh and cry, you know, die laughing over, and that they can tell other people, and you know, and you know, that's good enough for me.
Makes sense to me. So as we kick off this podcast, something that I think you would probably be able to expect in the future is you're going to hear stories about hunts. You're going to hear stories about probably some farming, some I would even say some ghost stories and things like that. I mean, Lord knows my dad and your dad could probably tell some of those, but also some family history. And we're going to be bringing in different people over time, some people who are our friends, some people who are older than us that we respect a lot, that have a lot of good things to bring to the table, a lot of value with what they could share. And that's all this is going to be. It's just going to be a place where we break down the humor and the life that comes from just people who have lived a lot more of it, and what we can glean from it, and laugh from hearing what they've got to say. And that's really all I'm after, is just a little glimpse into the place that we call home and the things that make the people we care about who they are. And I would summarize with that. You'll hear a lot of stories from us over time. Maybe there will be some times where we don't even have any guests, and it's just the two of us talking about a topic we pick, whether it's turkey hunts or deer hunts, or times we sunk a truck in a mud hole, or wrecked a truck in the snow, or whatever. There's endless possibilities, and we'll get into all that later as you get to know who we are. But really, I think the point of this podcast is just for us to share a little bit about who we are, what makes us who we are, and why the oral history of the place that we call home and the people that make it the place that we call home matter. And hopefully that can give people a little highlight in their day, something that they can learn from, but share in a positive way that makes an impact in their lives, that you can take and yes, watch a video, yes, watch something that's one more thing on YouTube, but take that and let it soak into you in a way that you can take and share it with the people in your life, and maybe find a little lesson, a little gold nugget in every story that can shape who you are in the future, just like these stories and these people have shaped who we became as adults. And I would say that really summarizes what we're doing here.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I mean, it's not, and that's the whole, we've been talking about this for months, and I think the one common thing is that we want it to be relaxed and not only fun for us, but fun for everybody else. And I think if we're having fun, most people are going to be having fun with us. And I don't want to put us, and we agreed that it's not one topic. It's not single. It's not just about hunting. It's not just about this, but like you said, it's about our lives and the impacts we've had and we've made but yeah, I mean, that's a great summary. I mean, although we will talk a lot about hunting, because not only do we have good stories and some cool stuff has happened, but I also need to learn more. And this could also be an opportunity for, I need to learn more so I can teach more. Because I've learned a lot of lessons the past 2 years hunting that property that it definitely, when you sit in the woods for hours and hours, for days, and no deer come, and you see every animal but a deer, you start, okay, I need to figure this out, instead of just, oh well, they're not coming out today, But that, along with a lot of other stuff, I think we have a lot of valuable stuff that, whether it helps people, whether people don't have any interest in hunting, they can still listen to something funny. I mean, God, Lord knows, we know some of the funniest people in this part of North Carolina. I mean, I would venture to say that, one guy's a preacher that literally baptized me, married me. I was the ring bearer at his wedding, and
I thought you were the flower girl.
Oh yeah, I probably would have done better at that. I have a good story about a lot of stuff, but
yeah, and we're going to get into all that. But one thing I would say is we could share a lot of these stories just ourselves, but there's a uniqueness and a significance that comes when someone that had the story told to them, or they're the eyewitness of what happened. There's a contagious enthusiasm and weight that comes through as people share what they've experienced, or when someone that they revered or looked up to shared it with them. And I feel like we would be doing a disservice to anyone that listens to this if we don't let those people themselves share those stories with you in a way that you get the true value and depth and richness of what they're actually trying to share with you. So I can't wait for people to actually hear from some of these people, because some of these stories are wild. But
and I mean, and it's the detail. Some of the detail gets lost, and And I know at least when my dad comes on here, he has a million stories, but the ones that are about me, if I were to tell them, I would tell them a different way.
Defensive?
Yeah, because I've done some stupid stuff, but I know he'll tell it better because he can tell it from his point of view, and his point of view is as a father of one boy and 3 girls, and I raised more Cain than any of them, or all of them put together. But it helps people to hear it from
the source.
From the source, not from and we could read a book and tell you what the book meant to us, but to hear it from the person that wrote the book, it means something different.
Yeah, my hope is that we can go into some of the history of our families and stuff with time too, and get multiple perspectives from different angles on some of these topics and stuff. Or if we're talking about a specific subject, get people to come in and multiple people tell different stories on the same topic. So the possibilities are endless, really.
Oh yeah. Well, I think people will get to know us better over time. And I think it's just impossible in an hour and a half, however long we go. It's impossible to get all the details about us out in that amount of time. But I would like to get into at least a couple stories.
Now?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Because I think we've gone. I mean, if you think so, if we've gone over enough of what we wanted to in the pilot episode, but I think we should go into some stories about us. Now I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to think. I just want to think of something that will really a good memory that involves both of us. While this is not something, no one will be named, but we did crush over the same girl growing up in the youth group. I think that was something.
My wife is going to watch this and be mad at me.
Why?
No,
well,
I don't know. I'm joking.
Mine
That's
probably
true.
will
Yeah,
too.
for a really long time.
This is before either one of us knew our wives.
Ironically, the thing about that's funny is it never seemed to affect the friendship.
Right.
It just took us a really long time to realize we were too stupid to just move on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, no names will be brought up, and if that person were to see this,
She's dead now.
Huh?
She's dead now.
Whatever you say. But, it was funny because me and you were both, I would say at the time, being, 13, 14 years old, head over heels. Mm-hmm. But we were friends, and we both knew each other were head over heels, but we were still friends.
Yeah.
And we never let that come in between us. And that was, looking back, I was like, that could have ruined friendships. That often does ruin friendships.
Women often do, yes.
But it was never a triangle. It was just me and you, and then she was over there, and we were both like,
a lot of hours were wasted over conversations, throwing knives, and trying to wrap our head around things that would have been better off just left alone.
Yeah.
But never really did affect friendship.
Yeah. You know who I do want to come at some point have him on? I don't know if he'll do it, but I'd love to have Cody on.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. He would have just his recollection of events would be hilarious. I think. I mean, I know I still tell stories about him.
Oh, I got a good story.
Okay.
This one doesn't really involve me much, but it does involve me in the sense that when y'all told me, I died laughing. So we had a mutual buddy we grew up with, the one he just talked about, Cody. And this was about the time that I grew up hunting and fishing and stuff. And so that I had a little more of a background in that than maybe you did. But that's something that's grown as we've gotten older. You become more involved, and it's been sort of an anchor point in the friendship is how much we spend time in the woods and pursuing, whether it's white-tailed deer or just squirrels or turkeys. The stories will be coming in future episodes. But I remember coming to church, or maybe we hung out the next day or the next week. I don't remember, but I was told a story. So the kid, the mutual friend, his dad was a huge whitetail hunter. So I always had land, always had a lot of good stories, a lot of good success. And so I guess I should have expected better. But long story short, You and our friend Cody had been out shooting that day and just hanging out. I couldn't be there, and I don't know why, but the two of you were hanging out. And the story I was told was that you guys had shot a turkey.
Oh,
And you did not shoot a turkey.
You don't think I can get in trouble for that?
No.
And I didn't shoot it either.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the story I was told was you guys shot a turkey, and his dad, being a traditional, conservationist, traditional hunter, said if you shoot it, you got to eat it. So you guys proceed to pluck said turkey.
Yeah.
And what was the first thing you noticed that was the giveaway that something was wrong?
It smelled like trash. I was like, so to lay out there, they have a back deck and surrounded by woods. They're not on the main, kind of on the back road, and they have a big back deck, and they have had a ton of guns and stuff. And so we were shooting a .22 Magnum, and it was part of like a 3, I don't know what, it was Ruger, I don't know what brand it was, but it was like a 3 rifle set. There were 3 different ones, and he had all 3. Well, we were taking one of them, and Cody, I don't even know if he shoots guns anymore or hunts anymore. I doubt he does, but he could flat shoot.
Which surprises me, if I'm being honest.
But he could shoot. And so it had a scope, and about 150 yards, at least 150 yards away, their pond was at the bottom of this hill.
Yep.
And there was trees, kind of bushes. They had muscadine grapes, a row of muscadine grapes, but you could still see the dam on the right side. And so he's looking through the scope. I don't even know what we were shooting at before. We may have just been shooting into the water. I don't know what we were doing. But he's like, dude, there's a turkey down there. And I was like, let me see. So I look through the scope, and I see it. And it's 150 yards away, and the scope only goes, it only zooms so far. Uh-huh. And I was like, yeah, turkey. And he was like, should we shoot it? I'm like, I don't know. I guess. Because at this point in time, I don't even think I took the hunter safety course.
Uh-huh.
And so he smoked it. One shot from at least 150 yards away.
Headshot or body?
Headshot.
Okay. All right.
You're talking about the size of a silver dollar, maybe a little bigger. Mm-hmm. And he headshot, killed it one shot, and I was freaking impressed. So we go get it, and the first thing I noticed, it's like, this thing's smelling loud, like this musky or musty. Is it musk or must? I think it's musk. Anyway,
both are words.
Anyways, it smelled like hot garbage, and so we take it up, and Philip didn't tell us.
Philip's the dad.
Yeah, he didn't tell us to clean it. We were just going to clean it and have us some turkey legs.
Uh-huh.
So we take it kind of in the back.
Kind of like by the garage.
Yeah, patio type.
Yeah,
we take it, put it on an old table, and we start ripping the feathers out. Well, the first thing, I ripped some feathers out, and the head flies up, and I think it's still alive, so I jump back. It scared the crap out of me because I'd never shot a big bird at least. And so, anyways, so we get it about half plucked, and I'm just like, my hands smell like trash and everything, and we're pumped up. So if hardly anybody's going to know who Philip is, but he's very reserved, very quiet.
Yeah.
Doesn't talk a whole lot.
Yeah, kind of monotone.
Yeah, but he is funny and
dry as a bone.
Yeah, dry, but he's funny. But he comes out, and I swear, I don't know if it's just a mental picture or if it really happened, but I swear he had a toothpick like this. And he comes walking up, and he was just like, what are y'all doing? And Cody's like, we shot this turkey. We're going to eat it.
And what was it?
I'll never forget. He said, that ain't no turkey. That's a turkey buzzard. Like, that thing eats roadkill. You can't eat that. And we looked at each other like we had just broken and robbed a bank. Like, we thought we were going to jail, all this. So I don't know. I think we threw it in the woods way away, and I hope I don't get in trouble for that. But
I don't even know if a buzzard will eat a buzzard.
Golly, but it took about 3 hand washings to get that stink off.
I just can't believe y'all didn't realize it was a buzzard until that moment? Did you actually know deep down? Was there something there that told you? You really thought it was a turkey?
No, I never shot it. I never went turkey hunting.
Yeah.
I'd never seen one up close. I mean, I'd seen pictures of one, but see, I thought I didn't realize that they, I thought all turkeys were fluffy. When I'd seen the videos of people shooting them,
they're all ruffled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought. I thought we shot it and it's dead and it deflated. That's basically what I thought. And so I in my head, we shot a turkey.
Oh man.
Or I didn't shoot it actually. I just ripped a few feathers out, but I don't know if that's a crime or not. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations have run out on that one. You're probably fine.
Yeah, that's probably like at least 15 years ago.
All right, you want one good story on me before we go? Since I just told one about you, something dumb. I don't care. We can save it for next time.
I need to think for just a second. I'm trying to think of how far back I want to go.
20 years.
Oh, I know the story I want to talk about. So, you've always been like an acrobat. You've been able to do standing backflips and swing on grapevines, and
that has changed as I've progressed through my 20s.
Right, but when we were younger, you were like Tarzan. Like the way you would get to A to B is just different from the average person. Like you could just way you moved around like a spider monkey, and so. We have my dad, my uncle has land in Virginia in Carroll County, and it's about 100 some acres of farmland that we don't farm because we're too far away to farm it, so we lease it out. But we have a farmhouse up there, and it's a place where me and you and a lot of friends have camped over the years.
There's a lot of stories there. Some can and some cannot be told.
Yeah. Well, this particular time, we had a late night, like most of them were, around the campfire, telling stories and having fun and laughing. And I did not know that my dad and my uncle were coming up the next day.
Yeah.
I had no clue. They knew we were up there, and I guess they thought they were going to surprise us. So we're down in the bottom of the middle of the property. If you scream bloody murder, no one's going to hear you. But it's a beautiful spot where a creek runs through.
Well, we camped there several times, and we picked it because you're right there between like a fork in the creek.
Yeah.
And it's a flat spot. It's beautiful. It's a good spot to have a tent and a campfire. You've got access to water. It's just, if you're going to camp outside, which I preferred, we moved to a house later in the years.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice spot to be.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it's Carroll County, or in most of Virginia, is beautiful anyway, but that property is it's wonderful, and so so we get up and let's just say we're surprised that they're there, and we do not feel like
no. We got back to your dad and your uncle eating our breakfast.
Oh yeah,
they tore into our coolers. They ate our pound cake.
Yeah,
and I
forgot about that.
I was upset. Both of these particular gentlemen your dad wasn't retired yet, but that was just sort of his like mosey hangout time.
Yeah.
And so they had different plans than we did. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, we wanted to
shoot things and sit down and eat. Yeah,
that was it. And they wanted to work. And the work they wanted to do was find a dead tree and cut it up and pile it for wood for the next few times we camp down there.
Yeah, but this went on for hours. Like we played the game because obviously we were guests on the property, and you didn't want to upset your uncle and your dad, and they were like two kids at a candy shop. They thought this was the best thing ever. So I knew it was going to happen before it was over with. It's been 2.5 hours.
I couldn't hold it in.
Anyway, so They thought this was great. They thought, we're all going to just get up wood. This is fantastic. But you have to understand, from our perspective, this is not what our trip was supposed to be about. And we had been cutting wood now for a couple hours. I didn't feel good. Was it stink?
It's horrible.
So I didn't feel good. I was hungry, for one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because old people don't eat as much as we do. So they ate our pound cake first thing that morning. They're good. They're good for until they go home.
Yeah.
God,
I'm sorry. it's been building. It's the coffee. It gets me moving down there.
So anyway, for whatever reason, I had just about had my fill for the day. It was getting late too. Like it was getting close to time where over a campfire we were going to have to start cooking food, or we were going to. It was going to be dark.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So we're the creek. There's actually two creeks that come in, kind of where our campsite was, and we were moving kind of around. Like there's a real shallow creek, and we were moving around with stacks of wood, going to the big stack to pile it up, and we were going to put a big tent over it so it didn't get rained on. And I think we were wrapping up or about done, and the small creek that was shallow and what you would later learn out was full of rocks at the bottom, had a tree hanging over. Mm-hmm. And being the Tarzan-like or Tarzan-esque person you took off running and you leaped and you grabbed the limb.
It was like it was pretty high off the bank.
Yeah, it was high off the bank.
It was high off the bank, but it spanned over the creek.
It was at least 8 foot up, all from the bottom of the creek toward the limb, at least 8 feet. But you could reach it because the bank kept you up that high, at least an extra couple feet. But anyway, you grabbed the limb and you proceeded to swing over the creek, and you were going to land on the other side. Something you've probably done 100 times. Well, you grabbed a dead branch, and the branch went snap, and it had carried you enough to where your feet.
I had momentum.
Your feet were up, like to the
parallel.
To your head.
Ground, yeah.
And it was like a cartoon, like Wile E. the Coyote. You came straight down right into the middle of the creek, and I just remember seeing you hit, and the water fly up on either side of you, and you got up.
I busted my elbow, and for a split second, I blacked out. Finish what you're saying.
And then you got up, and we were all like, I covered my mouth, and I was about to start laughing. I was like, I can't laugh at him. But you got up holding your elbow, and you were like, oh, and you were already pissed. We were all pissed.
I was mad.
But you were irate. You were about to leave.
Yeah.
And you were trying to walk it off, but you were hurt.
In that moment, see, that's your perspective. In my mind, what happened is I snapped. I had my oh crap moment as I hit the creek bed, and then I blacked out for a second. And when my eyes opened back up, instead of seeing all my friends look scared or worried about me, all of you had a look of pure delight on your face as I'm sitting there in pain. You're dying. All 5 of you or whatever.
Oh
not a one of you was worried. You're all just sitting there just with looks of joy on your face as I'm sitting there in pain. And I was mad.
Well, we were just like, all I was thinking was, why did he do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was like, I don't know. None of us wanted it to happen, but it's like when an old person falls down. As long as they get up, it's funny, and you can't help it. You don't wish for that on anybody. Same for your situation. We didn't want to wish that on you, but it
didn't stop you from laughing.
Oh my gosh! Once I realized you were going to be okay, and that your elbow, didn't you have like a?
I was bleeding.
But you had like a contusion for
it was
years.
bad.
Like you had a piece of bone or something, because you could feel it.
I just remember I got out of the creek and I was stumbling around, and your uncle turned around and looked down at the creek and looked up at me and said, "You dropped your hat." I was so mad because he didn't see the fall or anything. He had missed all of it, and he turned around. "You dropped your hat."
That's like Steve. Yeah,
I know I dropped my hat. Plenty of stories to come.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's something that it's just lost with some people, and people get stuck in their phones and on TikTok and Instagram. And I've never had a Facebook and never will, but I don't look down on people for it. But I just think people should take a chance to sit down and reminisce and, remember why they love their families, talk about why they love their families, and talk about the good, the bad, and the funny, and and
it's a good opportunity to pass something along. Maybe it can make a difference in a positive way, I think.
Absolutely. And that's all I want to do. This is not my job, and it's not it's not something that I necessarily feel like it's an obligation, but I do feel like if you have the ability to bring some joy to somebody, whether it's just something, busting our own chops, or whatever, if it helps one person, then it makes me happy, and that's the beautiful part about it is they can always turn the channel or listen to something else, but if we can bring a little fun to some people and a little bit of history about us and our way of life and our culture, then it's gonna make me happy.
You want to wrap it up there?
I think that's a good stopping place.
All right.
Well, this is. You want to do the outro or me?
Go for it. I did the intro.
Intro, outro.
There you go.
So this is the Donnaha Station. I'm Elijah Cox, and this is Jonathan Allen. And come listen to us again.
See you next time.
Oh, now I got to pee again. That coffee hits me right. I'll tell you. It's a diuretic, as they say.